I was reading the comments on some of the videos there, and somebody who was going through an earlier video just made the point that I said I would talk about some of the things that I've managed to achieve in my life. Things like sailing across the Atlantic twice, breaking somebody out of a prison, or not breaking somebody, but rescuing somebody from prison. What else? We talked about managing to get 1.65 million from a bank when all I had to show for it was a car, and a couple of other things like that, and I completely forgot about those. So I've been so busy doing the videos that I've completely forgot to share some of those experiences. So I'm going to do that over the next couple of videos and try and link them back to, you know, the 10 steps that we're talking about, even though in a lot of those cases those things happened a long time ago and I didn't have the 10 steps that I have today, but I still had elements of it in a kind of a less structured sort of way. So today I want to talk about how I managed to get to the point where I was sailing across the Atlantic, because I didn't know how to sail. I didn't have a boat. You know, I had sailed a little bit. I'd sailed 10 times around our local bay, so I did have some knowledge, but certainly nothing like I needed to do to take on that project. So it was an idea that kind of got stuck in my brain, basically. And I had this idea that I would love to sail across the Atlantic, but kind of in the knowledge that I would never be able to do it because I had my own business that I was tied to kind of 7 days a week and all that kind of thing. I was having dinner one night with a guy who was kind of an adventurer, if you like. So he'd done some like pretty big adventures, both in sailing and mountain climbing and various different things like that. And I was telling him about it, and he said to me, well, like, just very straight, he just said, well, just do it. And whatever way he said it to me, I just suddenly realized, well, yeah, why not? Like, why not just do it? And from that day on then, I started to think about, you know, not necessarily how I was going to do it, but what it was going to look like when I did it. And so, you know, we talk about visualization, and I wasn't thinking about this as visualization, but actually that's what it was. So I had a notebook, and I used to kind of draw out what my boat would look like to cross the Atlantic. And really, I didn't know anything about boats, or knew very little about boats. So my drawings of boats were about how comfortable they would be to live in, how big the bed was going to be, and various different things like that. And so that's where it started. And so it was, I believe personally, that through visualization, even though I didn't know it was visualization, that I actually got to do that. And so basically what happened then was, there was a series of circumstances in my life. I sold a business, and I ended up in a situation where, you know, this might be possible. And because of all that visualization that I'd done, I was then able to just straight away click into that, and within a month or 6 weeks we'd already learned you know, how to sail. We'd learned about navigation, we'd actually bought a boat, and we were ready to go. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't had that conversation with that guy who said just do it, and secondly, if I hadn't been doing that visualization all through that time and had my little notebook with everything written down in it, even though I didn't know it was visualization at the time. So I guess actually I should tell you about that trip. I'd finished that video, I forgot about this. So that was back in 2008, and the plan was that I was going to do this. You know, my wife, what the plan wasn't that she would come with me. We'd just been married a few months before, and when she saw me getting into it, and she saw how enthusiastic I was about it and how passionate I was about it, she decided that she wanted to do it as well. Now, she had actually never been on a boat in her life, so she had to start from scratch as well and learn all that stuff. And we just started that journey, taking things like step by step. So we'd sail, you know, a few miles, and then, you know, 10 miles, and then 20 miles, and then we did an overnight passage, and bit by bit we kind of broke off bigger and bigger chunks, like baby steps. Then we sailed from one country to another. Then we, you know, started doing longer passages over, you know, bigger distances, longer times, longer seas and stuff like that. And we ended up sailing across the Atlantic. And you know, we had our hairy moments, we had our share of storms and all that kind of thing, and it was a massive adventure for us. But it kind of just happened slowly over time. It kind of evolved because we were just so passionate about this. We were going to do this. There was times when it was a little bit stressful for sure, but we got it done. And we ended up living on that boat for 2 years, so sailing from Ireland, the west coast of Ireland, all the way down the coast of Europe, around the north coast of Africa, across the Atlantic to the Caribbean, and then sailing around the Caribbean, living on the boat for 2 years. And the plan was to sell the boat then and to move back to Ireland. But actually then I had a couple of friends who wanted to sail across the Atlantic as well. when they'd heard what I'd done. So they called me up and I said, okay guys, let's sail the boat back. And so we actually sailed back up along the east coast of the US, off by Bermuda, up to the Azores, and then into Lisbon, where we finished the trip there and left the boat there. And the plan was that we were going to keep the boat in Lisbon because the weather's nice down there and we could go down there and sail. And then, you know, life got in the way and we had kids, and well, a kid, and bought a house and all that kind of thing. We realized this wasn't going to work out, so we sold that boat, and we're on the lookout for our next adventure. So that's how that worked. But again, it's down to that visualization. You know, it's amazing what you can achieve. Like, that was something that, you know, none of my friends thought I could achieve. My parents didn't think I could achieve it. I didn't think I could achieve it as well. But just through the power of visualization, it actually happened. There you go. Thanks.